Hey everybody, Rodney Miller with Hard Money Partner. I'm with Amanda Howell, owner of Atlas Homes. And
Ah,
Amanda was a teacher for 20 years and transitioned into the real estate business, more specifically investments, single family home investments. I think you're single family home. Do you do any multi?
yes, not
Okay.
yet.
All right, not yet. Okay. Single family home investments. And she's kind of a big player in Tulsa. And so I wanted to talk to her, just pick her brain and maybe help some of you newbies out. And it's going to see what she's got going on in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Welcome, Amanda.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for talking to me. I'm excited to talk to you. And I know you got a lot going on. I see a lot of your stuff coming across Facebook. And I know you're kind of a player there in Tulsa. So it's good to that you take the time to talk to me. And hopefully we can help some people out today,
Yeah,
and
I
shed some
love
light
it.
on this crazy real estate investment business.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
tell us about your prior to real estate investing. Tell us about your life. I know you're a
Okay,
teacher. Tell us about kind of how all that, and then we'll talk about your transition and how you
sure.
transitioned.
Absolutely. So, um, like you said, I was a teacher for 21 years and I was with Union Public Schools here in town and had a great career. Absolutely loved it. I loved working with kids and we got to do a lot of community um, coordinating, working with different businesses and different government entities. And so it was really unique. I did kind of a career internship program with high school students. And so it was great. I loved it. It was abysmal pay. I mean, it's actually kind of criminal what they pay teachers.
I agree.
And so,
Teachers and
yeah,
nurses should be paid a lot more.
it's insane. And it's one of those things where you pay now or pay later. But anyway, so I had to supplement my income, and so I had some rentals that I started around 2007, 2008, like right when the bubble hit. That was a good year for me. I bought like 25 houses that year.
Oh,
So,
nice.
uh, but that was also my side gig, and so that was a lot to take on with a full time.
So you
You
were
know,
able to do that while you had your job, your full-time job.
yes, and I was married at the time, and so we kind of split a lot of that responsibility. So it wasn't me just by myself. Um, but that's how I got involved in it. And then I ended up getting divorced. And so now I was a teacher with two kids on a, single parent on one income. And so it became even more important to go ahead and supplement that income. And so I had some rentals, kind of restarted in 2014 with just one property, um, and had some rentals. Within a year or two, I had probably 10 or 12 houses and I daisy chained. So I do like to kind of say, I love that you have that mentality of like, how can we bring other people up? Because this industry is one of the last places, other than like some sort of internet entrepreneurship thing, that like really anybody can get started.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, on a teacher salary, if I can do it kind of one house at a time and daisy chain it. So anyway, so did that and then started doing some flips, wanted kind of bigger bites and cash flow, and so did a few flips. I think I did like three, I don't know, three one year, and then by 2018 I did 7 flips that year, and it was just becoming too much to handle with the property management of my rentals. And I wasn't doing anything well. Like, I wasn't a super great mom at the time. I wasn't really crushing real estate. I was losing, like, I just couldn't keep it all the plates spinning,
Mhm.
really. And so I made the decision that I was going to go ahead and pursue real estate full time. And it's the scariest decision I've ever made in my whole life. But I really do feel like, this, and the kind of personality types that go into this industry. Once you make that decision, though, I think that's the most important thing. People talk about all the time, like, how do I get started? How do I get started? It's making the commitment, I'm going to do it, and having that mindset.
Yeah.
Everything else is going to figure it. And I see people on the Facebook groups and social media, they get that analysis paralysis a lot, and they just can't take action. And they're researching and they're very well informed and they're starting to get a feel for everything, but they just won't pull the trigger. And
Yeah.
so it's the hardest part. I mean, have
I
you
was
seen
gonna.
that with people you work with too, or?
Yeah, yeah. Back in around 2007 or eight, I got into real estate about 2003. But I was gonna start teaching people. I was gonna like do some mentoring and coaching and bring people up. And so I go to all the real estate clubs here in Oklahoma City, and I started I did a couple seminars. I got some people in the deal, and I really wanted to help people and partner with them on the first deal and all that. but I got so pissed off because nobody would pull the trigger. And so I started pissed. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I'm just wasting my time with most of these people because they're just not gonna, they just want to be part of a club. They want to show up, these regroups, and they want to like feel good about everything. And they want to like, this is so much fun. This is great. We get free pizza. But when it came down to them pulling the trigger, and I just got frustrated. And I was like, I'm probably not the guy to do this because I was getting too pissed off at it, And I'm not the kind of guy who's gonna take somebody's money and I saw people that were giving $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to these national gurus and never did a deal. And I just couldn't do that. That's just not who I am. I can't do that. But a lot of people, like you said, get analysis paralysis, can't do that first deal. They just can't get that first deal done. And that's what it takes. You got to pull the trigger, you got to hold your nose and jump in and just do something. And it might not be good. You might break even. You might lose a little money, but you're going to learn a lot. And you're in the business. You're in the business. So good for you. And so you started. So the first time you had a full-time job, you bought how many houses?
25. And again, like I was married. We also bought, I don't know how familiar you are with Tulsa, but we bought the Tulsa Club, which was a really cool Bruce Goff architect. He studied with Frank Lloyd Wright. Okay. Ton of Art Deco in Tulsa. So this building, 11 stories, was right at 5th and Boston, Cincinnati, like right by the Phil Tower. Beautiful building, had been abandoned for 20 years. There was like a murder in it. Homeless people were starting fires. I think there were like 5 fires. And it went up for auction. And so we actually bought that, and we got a steal. We bought it for like $460, I think. And at the time we were going to do like historic tax credits, and we were going to refurbish it and do kind of a mixed use. And the bottom level was going to be retail and restaurant, and then condos. But then there's also an event space. There's this amazing ballroom on the 10th floor. I can't remember now. Anyway, so we bought that, and we did all the demo and the clean out on it. And we're going through the process, and we met with architects, and we had renderings, and we were really going to undertake that. But then personally, that's the same time we got a divorce. And so neither one of us had the bandwidth to like take that on. And so we ended up, I let him have it in divorce, and he sold it to the Ross Group. And since then it's been renovated, and they just did a beautiful job. They took a lot of our original renderings and implemented it. And because it had all of these historic kind of parameters on it, it's basically the design that we had. And so I was reluctant to go see it for a while because somebody else built my dream, you know? Yeah. And so I walked in there and saw it, and it was so many different levels of, I'm never going to let somebody else build my dream again. Like, that's never going to happen. But 2, it was also so cool to see it realized. And so again, like, so much of this is mindset. And so I don't know. I think when I made the decision, it's like sometimes in movies they're like, oh, that's it. That's the moment. But I had my aunt and uncle were in town, and we were walking in the neighborhood, and the dog and the family, and we're all talking. And my uncle said, I was telling him about work and school, like how the responsibilities of school versus, the housing stuff that I was doing, and how it fed me and fed my soul. Sure. And he said, time is the only currency that matters. And that just, when he said that, I was like, I'm going to quit my job. What am I waiting for? Like, I have wasted so much time. And then to have I have so much freedom compared to education is so hard. I mean, the expectations, and I was kind of in an administrative position to where I didn't have just a 9-month contract. We had our summer days where we had to be there at 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. and we did 4 days. And so I have 2 kids at home. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. So people with the excuse that I don't have enough time, you just blew that excuse out of the water, right? Picked up 25 houses.
No, you find the time. Yeah, you find the time for sure.
Yeah. And you'll never forget the day that you just decide to quit your full-time job and transition. It's scary as hell, but it's so invigorating to do. And it's life-changing if you can pull it off.
Yeah. And you mentioned too, like the pulling the trigger. I think the other kind of mindset issue is you just can't be afraid to fail. I mean, I've made every mistake. And at first, I was a perfectionist. And so going into this, like I got in my own way a lot. But you just have to say, like, I'm not afraid to fail. I have made seriously every type you can think of, whether it's hiring or contract, this certain contractor, or, financing or closing issues, just every single one. And what I love about, kind of these types of interviews and things like that is to let people know, like, I'd love for people to learn from my mistakes. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's only a mistake if you don't learn from it. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Call those seminars.
Right.
The mistakes that cost you money. But that, yeah, that's really cool, man. I just, I really kudos to you, because you had a family, and that's scarier. I did it when I was single.
Mm-hmm.
I quit my job. I'd been out of college a few years and decided I didn't like that and quit my job to start business. And that was scary to me. And it was just me. I mean, I could have really, thinking back, I'm like, what was so scary about that? I could have like lived in a little bitty rented out room, and it wouldn't take me much to, but when you have kids and all that, it takes it to another level of, you got your folks you're responsible for, but you pulled it off. But you did it the right way. You didn't just quit your job and decide you're gonna do real estate. You started real estate while you were doing your job and transitioned when you saw you were probably getting pretty good at it at that point,
I was a very experienced newbie. And it's funny because, like, when I used to talk to people about this, like, I would only count the houses I did all by myself. And I'd be like, oh, I've done like 23 houses. And then some of my contractors that have been with me for years are like, what are you talking about? Like, you did 25 in 2008. What are you talking about? And I just, I don't know if I was like playing small or something. Cause I had a very slow roll to get a very long education to get to a point where doing this full time made sense, and building out a company. The other thing, I have a good friend who is in kind of Arkansas and the Oklahoma area. I was talking to him the other day, and he's been doing this, 7 or 8 years. And he said, we lost some money on some deals. We got some cash flow issues. And so I'm going to have to sell all my rentals and just reboot. And if I would have had that conversation even 5 years ago, even a year ago, that would have terrified me. But he and I were able to talk about it and say, okay, yeah, this is how you'll regroup. This is how you'll move this around, and this is what you're going to do. And does it suck? Absolutely. Is it ideal? No. But he also is fearless and has enough confidence in himself to say, okay, there is always an answer out there. It may not be a pretty answer, and it may not be easy, but there's always an answer to kind of recalculate and get back.
Absolutely. And that's the essence of entrepreneurism. You just don't give up. Things don't go your way, you regroup, you regroup, you come back at it again. And I think true entrepreneurs understand that. So if you have confidence in yourself and you've got a plan, you can make it work. Even if you have setbacks, and you see it over and over again. People lose everything and they just come back, and they're back.
And right now, so many people are struggling. And in our industry, and I don't know if you've seen the same thing, I feel strange that there's not more collaboration between Tulsa and Oklahoma City. I think we're starting to bridge that gap more, but it almost is like we're islands, but we're not that far. And I know that there's a lot of people that are starting to dabble in the markets, and I like that. I think, anyway, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Completely lost.
But I agree. Yeah, there's a kind of a disconnect, and we're like an hour, now with the 80 speed limit, we're like an hour and 15-minute drive to get to both places.
Oh, what I was going to say, I'm sorry. So with everything since COVID, the market has just shifted so much, and anybody who says like, this is what's happening, or this predicts what's going to happen, I really don't trust that very much. Like, we can talk about trends and predictions, but anybody who says like, I know this is what's going to happen.
Sure.
We've seen it really hurt the big guys, like iBuyers and those, billion-dollar companies that they didn't have relationships. So whenever we went to shutdown mode, they couldn't pick up the phone for somebody they've sold to for 5 years and said, hey, how are we going to pivot? What are you going to do? And so those automated systems crumbled. And then you have little guys who are starting off on their own that don't have the capital to compete in these markets. They just don't have the marketing dollars. And so I want us to kind of, as a community, lift those little guys up, because it only benefits us. Sure. I want to groom my future buyers. And so, but there are so many unexpected consequences. For example, this has happened this week, and it's so crazy. I have a private investor or private lender who, we're doing a house, and we closed on the house September 8th. Well, they cashed out an investment, and the people sent a check So an $80,000 check was sent August 27th, and here we are September, 17th, 18th, and it hasn't arrived yet. And so that has caught, because all the issues with the postal service.
Oh, I got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so so now we're having to go back and like find the tracking number and do all this stuff. But that's put me in a situation because now we're in our third week of construction, and so now I'm having to foot the bill on something that I thought was like a no-brainer.
Oh, wow.
That I had this money locked up. So the challenges are they're relentless, but they're also, I don't know, you just have to navigate and figure out how to deal with them.
Yeah. You just got to plow through it, man. You got to plow through it. So tell me about what's your business like now? So you've been doing this for a while. 2007, you said 2007, 8.
Starting a company. I mean, I was kind of just a lone wolf doing it on the side up until 2018 is whenever I resigned from my job and started.
Oh, okay. So that's when you went full time into real estate. Okay.
Yeah, that's when I went full time was 2018. And I was going to do it on my own. And really was confident thinking, I'll just do, I was thinking maybe 7 to 10 deals a year and I would be comfortable, because you don't
wholesales. What kind of deals?
Flips.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I had my rentals. So at the time I probably had like 12 or 14 rentals, I guess.
Okay.
And so I thought, okay, well, this is manageable. And then, this is so unlike me. We talk about the gurus and the mentoring and the coaching groups and all that. And I just think they're all BS. I mean,
Most of them are, probably all of them are.
They're not all, but about, my experience, the ones I looked at were just ridiculous. Yeah. And so I saw a post on Bigger Pockets, and this woman was talking about this event she'd gone to and how it had changed everything. And that seemed really genuine because, I mean, it was like somebody really telling their own story. And so she referenced it. So I kind of went down the rabbit hole and found this group. It's now 7-figure flipping and 7-figure altitude. I can't remember what it was called back then. And they do something called Flip Hacking Live. And so I'm not trying to do a plug for them, but this was the game changer for me. I went to their workshop in San Diego, and at the time, like I said, that year I did 7 flips total.
Okay.
But I came out of that going, oh my gosh, I can scale this. I can make a company. And so literally the last night of the workshop, I filed, my LLC, my domain name, my Facebook, like everything. I mean, I almost missed my flight because I stayed up all night doing all that. And it laid it out. The resources were very friendly and usable. In a lot of these groups, they're always pitching you something like, oh, you can use this service and it'll just cost you this much for like skip tracing, or you can use our this for this much. They're always peddling and selling you stuff. And what was different?
Use this link and tell them I sent you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so this group was different because they leveraged their membership to get discounts. You know what I mean? So it's like on ListSource, I'm paying, like 3 cents a name, it was an opposite thing. Instead of trying to like make you a consumer where you're buying stuff, it's like, hey, let's leverage our power. And so that group was very influential. And came back, started the company. So Atlas Homes didn't exist until, October of 18 or whatever. And then last year was our first full year with a staff and an office and all that. And I think we did like 50 deals. Most of them were flips, but we started wholesaling a little bit. I don't know why. I kind of had a block about wholesaling, and I feel ridiculous to even admit that, but I'm just going to be transparent and tell you, like, I just couldn't wrap my head around how it worked. I hadn't seen like the contracts and the assignments and stuff. And now towards the end of the year, we were doing that more and more just because the volume of flips that we were doing was just ridiculous. I mean, it wasn't very sustainable. Sure. And so we made the goal to go ahead and transition to wholesaling only for 2020. That was the goal. Okay. And then when COVID hit, though, we had to shift and pivot because we had, the different obstacles we faced were, our buyers weren't buying.
Really?
During the shutdown. So like that March, April time, you know what I mean? Yeah. So then we're like, okay, I guess we're going to be flipping some of these because we've got this inventory. So then we kind of got back into that. Well, then our margins just got better. Typically we track all of our data and our KPIs, and we usually, I don't know, we were probably buying houses between 50 and 70% of ARV. And wholesaling, well, we were consistently buying them at like 45 and 50% of ARV.
Yeah, are you kidding me? Really?
No, I'm not kidding you. I know I hate
Is
to
that
say
because
that.
less buyers were in the market? We're getting
Don't tell my buyers that.
exactly. Is that because there were less buyers in the market and people were selling lower? Or?
I really can't. I think there's a desperation, there's a distressed urgency that's out there right now, and we, in my opinion, we haven't scratched the surface of it.
I don't think we have.
And
I think after the election, we're going to start seeing some of the fallout of this. You know, these businesses going under and all this real estate that is not going to be leased out. I mean, we have a big. Is it Harkin Theaters here in Midwest City? They just built this huge, beautiful theater. You know, like 50, theater. It's one of the massive theater complexes. Right before COVID, they went live and they just went into foreclosure. And I think we're going to start seeing the bank took it back. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot of that. We haven't seen it yet, but I think, gyms, movie theater. I've got a huge showbiz movie theater right by my house that just opened up a year ago, and it's just been empty. I drive by it every day. Empty. It's got bowling alleys, arcades. Yeah, it's sad, man. And then the gyms and the restaurants, and I think, and we're not going to get hit as hard as the other parts of the country probably, but I think there's going to be a tsunami of. I think it's coming. I could be wrong. But I think
no, I think you're right. I think you're right. And I was talking with an investor yesterday that he's just picking up he does mostly commercial, and he's getting like mid and light industrial at a steal. I mean, it's
already
already starting to, and that. So I think we're going to see the commercial side happen first, and then when all these protections run out with because it's not just like people talk about foreclosure, well, evictions too, but we're going to have landlords. I mean, our biggest clientele, that's the other thing, everything shifted from our sellers were high equity and absentee landlords. Mm-hmm. And that's a shift. And that's who we were. And now we're already starting to see, distressed sellers we're going to shift from high equity to distressed, and because there's just, the pool is so big and ever growing, and that's
yes. Yeah.
And then there's a danger in that too. The people that remember 2007, 2008 is if we just completely flood the market again with all these cheap houses, that's not good either. So it's weird. We're at the spectrum where inventory so tight, but the other side of it is not, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, another thing that happened after 2008, I remember it vividly. I had about 60 rent houses. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really lose any tenants or anything. And actually rents went up after that because there were less people buying houses at that point. So rents started going up and appreciating all that. But one of the things that did happen after 2008 is the banks started really tightening up. Right. And it got really, there were a lot of deals out on the market, but there were less money available for those deals. And so if you had your finances lined up, this is a shameless plug, hard money partner.
No. You know what? Let me do it. I was going to do it for you because that's the thing. I mean, it's so, and it's so counterintuitive when banks do that.
Yeah.
And so my advice right now to investors, real estate, like start lining up your private money and your private lending. Like the banks are going to snap shut, and you're already seeing it. The terms are already just.
Yeah. We were very liquid. You could get money from any bank. You could get great loan to value and all that, but that's slowly changing. And if things start changing like we think it's going to after the election, if the real estate starts slowing down and cratering, the banks get freaked out and they just take off, and it gets really impossible to find it. So there will be lots of good deals out there, but the people with the resources and the capital behind them are the ones that'll be able to take advantage of it. So
absolutely. And I think that savvy investors right now need to be making those relationships and reaching out to people like you, because you've got to have your ducks in a row and be ready, because what's going to happen, and this happened from personal experiences. I wasn't very liquid at the beginning of with the housing bubble, and then quickly, because I had relied on some commercial lending, and then when that dried up, once we pivoted, it was awesome. We had a great year, but people really need to start reaching out and just making those connections and talking to, hard money lenders, and what are your terms and what's it look like? Because
Yeah, local banks, hard money lenders, private investors. I mean, private people that are. There's a lot of money out there looking for good returns, and so
Mhm.
you know,
Well, and
just start chasing down all your sources of capital and line them up.
absolutely. I don't know if I told you about this. I had a five house rental package deal that had my financing lined up with my regular lender, regular commercial lender. Everything was going great. And then about 10 days before closing, they said, "Oh, underwriter, we've changed it, and now we want you to bring 20% to the table," which was like over 100 grand. Um, with like less than 10 days before closing. Like I really didn't have time to go shop it anywhere else. And that was such a huge change in terms. And I think we're seeing that too, where, I had worked with Lending Home at one point and they changed their terms too while we were in mid deal. You know what I mean? Like I'm under contract and you agree to these terms and now you're changing them. And so again, it's foolish not to start reaching out for hard money and getting that lined out. And where it's really going to hurt is when somebody loses a deal over it. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's when people are going to go, "Oh man, I got to get this figured out," because there's going to be amazing deals. And if you can't convert, it's just going to be tough. So
absolutely. Hey, Amanda, I wanted to keep these to under 30 minutes and we're at 28 minutes, but I got so much more questions to ask you. Can we do this again maybe in the near future?
Sure. Yeah.
I want to ask you how you run your business, how you scaled up to, I did a seminar a long time ago about how to systematize your business and all that, but how you scaled up to an actual business. You're not one person chasing down deals. You're not just being transactional. You're building a business.
Correct. Yes.
I want to ask you more about that, and I got a lot more questions for you. Maybe next week I could get you back on. We could do another one.
Yeah, I love talking about this stuff. So
I do too, man. And one thing about when you're in real estate, I mean, if you're truly a real estate entrepreneur, you live it. You eat, sleep, breathe real estate, and you want to talk about it. And the worst thing you can do, my wife would take me to parties with other people.
I know, yeah.
And that's what I want to talk about, and
their eyes are like glossing over.
Yeah, it's painful. It's painful, yeah. But that's cool. So we'll wrap it up here. If people want to pick your brain, or new people coming in the business want to, learn from you or get on your list, how do they reach you? Tell us about your contact. Give us your contact information, your business website. Sure. All that.
Okay, so we're Atlas Homes Tulsa. We have a website, atlasHomesTulsa.com. My email address is amanda@atlasHomesTulsa.com. We have 2 Facebook pages. One is real fluffy, and it's just kind of out there for the community, for our sellers and stuff. And then we have Atlas Homes Buyers Club. And so we feature a lot of our deals on there for our wholesaling. Okay. And so anybody can reach out. If I have the extra time, I actually ended up hiring somebody who I started mentoring, and they were just kind of shadowing. Like I said, the education, the teacher in me, reach out if I have the time. I will definitely, or I'll make time to talk about it and help people along. So I'm open book and available. So
have you thought about starting a formal mentoring process for folks that want to learn?
No. And I've had some other people in town that we had some high school interns that actually worked here from my old program. And I said, hey, can they shadow you? And they're like, well, what would you pay me? And I don't want to monetize it. I'll just be real honest. I would much rather do it informally and be a resource, but it's not something that I'm interested in pursuing that way.
Yeah, it's a whole, usually people that do that,
that
becomes their business, and then they don't really do real estate anymore, and it's just a bunch of BS, like you said. So I respect that. I do. Folks, Amanda Howell.
Step out.
I appreciate it, Amanda, and we'll get you back on here, and we'll pick your brain on your actual business. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Sure. It's been wonderful, and we'll talk to you here shortly.
Okay.